everybody. Welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Appreciate you joining us here today. We do have a good one for you. Here's what's on tap. We are starting with a pretty big, I would still call it a breaking news story about what's going on down at the border in Del Rio, Texas. Some really crazy stuff going down there, where we are seeing images coming out of Border Patrol people taking what looks like some sort of cord, and using it as a whip on Haitian migrants struggling to, pick up their things and try and get into the country from Mexico after, Jovenel Moise was assassinated there a few months ago. Now people are trying to get up. And again, we'll get into all of it. That is an absolute mess. Meanwhile, back in Washington, Kristen Sinema doubling down on the situation with both the prescription drug price bill she now says she will not support, and now says she's going to not support the infrastructure bill if Pelosi tries to delay in any way the bipartisan bill in the September 27th vote. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders and other top Democrats say otherwise. They say the parties need to come together for the reconciliation package. We'll take a look at what they have to say as well. And a really awful story. The poor nations are going to be going without vaccines, as really 100 million COVID vaccines will go to rot throughout rich nations. It's not good, folks. We'll round it all up for you as soon as flash. Alright, so let's get into it today. And that, of course, we're going to start in Haiti with the situation with the migrants there. And it really is an awful situation. This is in El Paso Times. A mounted U.S. Border Patrol agent shouted commands in a tense encounter with Haitian migrants wading through the Rio Grande near Del Rio, Texas. As Haitians tried to climb the U.S. side of the river on a Sunday afternoon, the agent shouted, "Let's go, get out now, back to Mexico." The agent swung his whip menacingly and charged his horse towards the man in the river who were trying to return to an encampment under the international bridge in Del Rio after buying food and water in Ciudad Acuña, Mexico. So it didn't even look like they were really trying to get into the country. They were just literally being hounded for no reason by men from on horseback. One migrant fell as he tried to dodge. Others shielded their heads with their hands. After a few minutes, the agents retreated, allowing the migrants to return to the camp, where over 10,000 refugees are waiting for their chance to open an asylum claim in the United States. Really just off the way that these things have happened here. I mean, not saddling, just the United States owes Haiti so much. If you look at what they've done with them, first off, saddling, really taking awful care of them, sticking them with the Clinton, pretty much letting the Clinton Foundation, the American Red Cross, and just absolutely failing on all types of relief efforts there, raising so much money to just absolutely do nothing with the resources that they've raised, supporting and, building up Jovenel Moise there, somebody who is anti-democratic, not holding elections, firing judges, all that kind of stuff. Then he gets assassinated. Who knows how that happens? Who's to play there, knowing what we know with the United States and what they do around the world. And all of a sudden now, what do we have happen? A huge refugee crisis brought on by just instability that is in no small part played by the United States and actions throughout the many years. And then they're treated like this when they get on the border. It's just absolutely just reprehensible to see, and you really don't know. It's really hard to expect anything else at this point, but it's really just disappointing and depressing. Some of the pictures going out on social media right now are just absolutely insane. These people on the ground stumbling for their things. They don't have all their clothes. They were shirtless trying to cross the river. There were things like plastic bags being strewn all across the river. And there are people lunging at them. These Border Patrol agents in these cowboy hats lunging at them. off of the back of horses here. As Sunday wore on, U.S. and Mexico officials took a hard line in its curtations from approaching the border and warned that those in the camp would face rapid removals to Haiti, which I don't get, because they should be allowed to stay there. They should be allowed to seek asylum. I mean, unless there's something I'm missing, legally here, they should be allowed to stay there under the international bridge, and claim asylum. And they definitely, I don't give a crap, honestly, what's legal and what's not legal in the situation. You can't consider yourself a moral person and then hector and threaten to whip, or who knows, actually end up whipping a migrant trying to bring back a carton of milk to their family under the encampment. I mean, you cannot be considered a good person and do that. I don't care who you are. You're not going to lose your job for not whipping someone trying to bring milk to their family. It's just not realistic. In Del Rio, Texas, federal and state authorities are mobilizing to move the thousands of people camped under the bridge as quickly as possible, probably into another prison-like setting where they're separated and treated horribly. And this again, I've loved seeing this happen, or really hated it, but kind of loved it at the same time. All this hand-wringing from people who were, the Biden people who, pressuring people to vote for Biden. You have to vote for Biden. You're an awful person. You're going to, you literally bring back Hitler. One of the biggest things they said was Biden's going to be different on immigration. He's going to make you, proud to be an American because, we treat immigrants well again. He's not going to do the crazy things that Trump did. That's what, he's better. Do you want to, help someone who would separate kids from their families to win again? That awful border policy that Trump, was so well known for. And we see what's happening now in Biden, time and time again. He has made no effort to in any way break up the exact policy that Trump had just a few shows ago. Actually, it was last show. We talked about the immigration policy literally in court being ruled unconstitutional, and Biden being told to knock off Trump's old policy. And these instances just keep cropping up. And I keep finding them back in, the back of my head for people who, want to shame me or others the next time it comes down and, you're hesitant about voting for the Democratic Party, without any question. So, yeah, U.S. officials say the priority is to quickly process and deport the migrants and asylum seekers. I don't get it. How's this, you have to take an asylum claim? You have to, is that even, I must be missing something here. In Mexico, authorities have tightened immigration controls, choking off entry points to the Ciudad Acuña to prevent more migrants from entering. And there are, of course, thousands of Haitians caught in between at the encampment and Ciudad Acuña. And they're now left with a few options to try to stay in Mexico or turn themselves in and face the risk of deportation to the country they abandoned. So, a really awful situation. So, Del Rio Mayor Bruno Lozano, speaking at a Sunday news conference, said that removal flights were already leaving Del Rio for San Antonio, where they would continue to Port-au-Prince. He said Sunday that over 2,000 people will be relocated from the bridge to others locations for processing. 2,000 people is much better than what we were doing before. We were moving about only 400. I mean, it really is insane to see that this is just not, why these asylum claims are not being at all processed and people just being point blank deported for asylum claims. We will definitely continue to follow this story for you very, very closely because this should be under any circumstance. People are coming in the United States to claim asylum should be able to claim asylum. Why are they being deported point blank without their claims being processed? This is just a complete, aberration and distortion of just any standard previously up to now of just basic, immigration law. I mean, if I'm crazy, you know what? Send me a tweet at SBW272 or comment on Spreaker.com/user/TSWS because I want to hear about it, or leave me or just find some way to tell me that I'm wrong, because this cannot be right by any circumstances. All right, we're going to be back in a minute.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our segment to tell you all about what's going on here on the Spencer Walsh Radio Network this summer. We do, as I'm sure you know, have a great lineup available for you. We, of course, start with our flagship show, Newsflash, all new Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, uncultured, irregularly, back every Saturday with live music and sports analysis. With my co-host of the summer, Bennett Laxton. Hidden History will be brand new every Thursday on a bit of a hiatus, but will return shortly. It's the summer of podcasting. It's the summer of sounds. All you got to do is just keep listening wherever you get your podcasts, always here on the Spencer Walsh Radio Network.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on now to our little story from Politico by Laura Barron Lopez. That last one was from, again, I think it said El Paso Times. So the White House has a new headache, another headache, as it struggles to get its multi-trillion-dollar party line spending bill passed. Kirsten Sinema's objections to drug pricing reforms that are already struggling to make it in-house with Kurt Schrader. We talked about the people, these moderate holdouts in Kurt Schrader's in Oregon, but there are other people out there as well coming out and saying, you know what, the biggest problem that I have is I am trying to, I do not want people to not pay hundreds of dollars for insulin at a time. That is just not going to work for me. It's going to, what is the reason they give? I think it's something about, I think the one we read about recently was it's going to ruin investment in the, industry of the not paying a ridiculous amount of money for drugs. By the way, most of the research and development for this stuff is taxpayer funded by, various, heavily subsidized research agencies, things like that. And even for, instances like the vaccine, that was, in a large part, a lot of the innovation from that came from public money as well. So that just makes that whole idea that you're going to stop spurring innovation, and everyone's going to die because there's going to be no drugs left. We can't do it. We can't possibly do it. No one's going to be able to ever make drugs. Public money can't support that. There's no possible way. It's just ridiculous. It's not backed up by anything factual, and every other. We cannot as a country be paying 10 times, ridiculous amounts more than what other people pay for the same amount of, drug quantity. It is abomination in the fact that it's an aberration, and it has to stop. That is. The idea that, and it's overwhelmingly popular too, because Americans, I'll tell you what, Americans are going to be willing to take the risk. If they don't have to stop freaking cutting their pills in half and rationing insulin to, have their loved one or themselves survive, it will be, I think that's, they'll be willing to take a little bit less, quote unquote, innovation that people like Pfizer and all those big pharmaceutical companies, Merck, are going to be providing us, they're all great, they never do anything bad, but whatever. The Arizona Democrat, by the way, one of the biggest big pharma, got over $500,000 in pharma contributions. So that's a big reason, probably one of the biggest reasons why what you're seeing here today is happening. So the Arizona Democrat is the current prescription drug pricing proposals in both the House and Senate. She does not support them. Two sources familiar with her thinking said. They added that at this point, she does not support a pared back alternative that's being pitched by House Democratic centrists that would limit the drugs subject to Medicare. That would limit the drugs subject to Medicare negotiation. So they're not even saying she's more. In the pocket of Big Pharma than even freaking Kurt Schrader and those other people. They were like, oh, we could just do some of them, compromise, split it half. She's like, no, none. It is unacceptable. We cannot take any single red cent out of Big Pharma's pockets. No way. So Sinema met with Joe Biden on September 15th to discuss the social spending package. in which party leaders hope to include the Medicare prescription drug pricing proposal. By the way, again, overwhelmingly popular, especially in her state. She's not, by the way. Sinema has made her resistance to the current prescription drug negotiation proposal clear to the White House, according to one of the sources, but it's unclear if she's completely immovable. She's... So John LeBombard, Kristen Sinema's spokesperson, said that Kristen is working directly in good faith with her colleagues and President Biden. If you're literally not agreeing to compromise with, you don't support limiting the companies. You are what you are is you're representing Big Pharma. You're literally the human embodiment of Big Pharma, all because they give the grand sum. Congratulations, your great price, $500K. That's what it takes to sell out for literally millions of Americans whose lives depend on this stuff. That's all it took for her. Like that was it, because she has to go prance around in whatever those outfits are that she's pulling off in the Senate, and be who she wants to be. Even the people who work for her, they can't figure her out. She's like a person of her own accord. Her soul must have was probably lost at the first Merck or Pfizer fundraiser she attended. But it is really, really, really dark stuff. Because what she's coming in, she's representing them, and she's coming to the President of the United States desk and saying, simple as that, I'm coming for everything. I'm coming for your agenda. You're not going to be able to stop me. Like, she has more power than he does. He's the president. Like, that is a reality situation, because she has the backing of, the corporations, the organized money, the organized power, and Biden just does not have the will. It's just that simple. Sinema is concerned about the prescription drug component, combined with Manchin's more publicly stated opposition to the current reconciliation bill, cast significant doubt on Biden's ability to get the votes to pass his signature domestic initiative. Biden and Manchin left their Wednesday meeting in a stalemate, according to two sources briefed on the conversation. The West Virginia Democrat said he could not support a $3.5 trillion package, a detail first reported by Axios. But the disagreement between the two went beyond that. When discussing the size of the bill, Biden cited the need to win progressive votes as well, implying that significant modification could cost him support on the left. So he really is, like, this kind of reporting is authentic. It's a good sign. People on the left should be encouraged that there is someone out there. Like, there are forces in the room that are, making sure that the president has been made aware that left votes will fall from this if he goes too far, and they need to hold that up. Like, they need to hold that up, and they need, because they will get the media furor that these people won't for blocking the president's agenda. They will get it like tenfold, but then the pressure is going to be all on them, because that's how that works. Like, that's that's the way the double standard lies. But it is really, really clear that they're pushing in, and they're pushing in hard on this. But it's good to see, Permilla's in there pushing Joe Biden on this and saying, you know what, Joe, you're gonna have to include the climate stuff in here. You're gonna have to, it has to, there is a left standard. It can't, there's a force on the left pushing this thing to the left, and the question is that force strong enough? Is it composed enough? Can it hold? But at least it's there, which it has not always been for a very long time. So Sam Bunyan, a spokesperson for Manchin, said Senator Manchin does not disclose the details of his private meetings. Manchin also pressed Biden about moving the Senate-passed bipartisan infrastructure bill first, as they figured out an agreement on the reconciliation package. According to two sources, Biden said it was a no-go, telling the Manchin the infrastructure bill could advance further without some commitment from Manchin to move forward on reconciliation. So probably what they'll do is they'll do some sort of loose commitment. I feel like at the end there's going to be some sort of push from Manchin to be like, hey, you know what? We'll do your thing first, but Biden's going to be like, yeah, we'll do your thing first, but you really got to promise. You really got to be, extra nice to us and say that you're going to do our thing too, okay? If you don't do that, I'm going to be really mad. That's pretty much what the vibe I get. But we'll see how much weight that push from Biden holds. That's very much up for debate, very much up for interpretation. But both Manchin and Sinema have made clear publicly and privately they're willing to negotiate on party-line social spending proposals. Their opposition to the current vision has irritated fellow Democrats who see a unique opportunity to muscle through their major domestic legislation. The reconciliation bill would boost child care, paid family leave, and expand the Medicare while spending potentially historic sums to combat climate change. Well, if you're so pissed off, then show it. Put some pressure and get some results and mobilize the base on this, because that's what's missing. There's no people out on TV, left wing or otherwise, saying call Joe Manchin, push him, get him pissed off. And if you have people on MSNBC regularly taking the to use a British phrase, taking the piss to Manchin, taking the piss to Joe Manchin, it might actually do something. That's what I'm saying. So the drug price negotiation changes that Sinema is coming out against are a major component of the bill's envisioned financing. That's what they're really trying to do. They're trying to attack the pay-fors. That's always been the strategy. We saw that with the Joe Manchin leaked lobbying message. But now, the thing is, the pay-fors there were, corporate taxes. It's a little easier to get. But this is overwhelmingly popular with the large portions of the countries negotiating on prescription drug prices as a pay for it. And then this is what they went down from, and they're still trying the same strategy. They started off as a corporate tax hike, then they lowered it to this, and they're still trying the exact same strategy. The pay-fors are what's unacceptable, while trying to leave out the provision of the bill because they're even more popular. It's Biden highlighted the proposal as popular across the electorate, and he's right about that. Senator ranks as one of Congress's leading recipients of pharmaceutical industry donations. Again, thank you, but again, 3/4 of the way through the article. That would not have been there maybe 2-3 years ago. So Sinema ranks as one of Congress's leading recipients of pharmaceutical industry donations. The Arizona senator is not the only Democrat expressing concerns with the party's approach to the drug negotiation. A trio of centrist House lawmakers have voted against the measure in the Energy Commerce Committee this week, and a fourth voted against it in Ways and Means. And Sinema's reading that, and she's like, ugh, I hate that they're putting that in there, that I receive pharma money, because it does, it embarrasses. It has a real effect. And if we keep that push up, it'll make it more and more, that is something that is going to be very good to see. Mainstream publications mentioning that and implying that she's, somehow under their bidding, which she obviously completely is, that is the direction we need to go in. Kathleen Rice, representative, was another one of these centrists. In a letter to the Alliance for the Retired Americans Advocacy Group, 2 days after the vote, the congressman said she supported the goals of the Democratic bill to allow Medicare to negotiate lower drug prices. By the way, pretty big thing for retired people. Just saying. Unlike her past votes in favor of it, however, Rice, again, a great move that these people love to do is vote on these bills when there's, say, a Republican Senate and it's not going to pass, or a Republican president. But the moment things change, it's a completely different story. Those votes dry right up. So the HR, and so she wrote in the letter to the Alliance for Retired Americans, the HR 3 drug pricing language was being used as a tool to offset the cost of a $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. Rice wrote, the bill has no chance of becoming law, as Democrats in the Senate have stated the bill will have such a price tag, will have such a price tag and not have the votes to pass in the chamber. Democratic leadership is under a tight self-imposed deadline, 7 days now, to resolve this. House leaders have promised to hold a vote in the Senate infrastructure bill by September 27th, which is designed to happen in tandem with the reconciliation package, but with progressives threatening to withhold their votes if the party line package remains uncertain. It's unclear if the infrastructure bill can pass, and these nihilist Democratic senators, what they're going to do? They're going to bring it on down. We don't care. We don't want any of it. They are saying now, this is in political playbook, Sinema has said that she will not support the reconciliation bill if progressives tank the bipartisan bill. So pretty much she's saying burn it all to the freaking floor. Like, that is the approach. That's the take she's going for that, which I find to be very, very interesting. This isn't playbook. She says she delivered a tough message to President Joe Biden at a private meeting on Wednesday. We're told if the House delays its scheduled September 27th vote on a bipartisan infrastructure bill, or if the vote fails, she won't be backing a reconciliation bill. Kurt Schrader is one of approximately 10 House Democratic moderates playing hardball with leadership. He said he and several members of the group are on the same page. Some of the lawmakers have conveyed the message up the chain to leadership in the White House. A senior Democratic aide confirmed the warnings. So if they delay the vote or it goes down, I think you can kiss the reconciliation vote goodbye. Schrader told Playbook reconciliation would be dead. So it's big news that the moderates follow through. The bet comes after Pramila Jayapal declared that House progressives had the votes to tank the infrastructure plan, unless it's paired with the $3.5 trillion reconciliation package. So that's big, big deals. Meanwhile, Joe Manchin stays winning right now. Another great example of the New York Times putting political contributions now in the first paragraph. Good job for them. This is by Coral Davenport. Joe Manchin, the powerful West Virginian Democrat who chairs the Senate Energy Panel, and earned $500,000 last year from coal production, is preparing to remake President Biden's climate legislation in a way that tosses the lifeline of the fossil fuel industry, despite urgent calls from scientists that countries need to quickly pivot away from coal, gas, and oil to avoid a complete climate catastrophe. That's right, he's writing this bill. He's rewriting and taking through on the, I believe it's like the Energy and Commerce Energy Panel, a very powerful energy panel in the Senate that he chairs, and it is really clear to see that he has he's going to completely do this in a way that satisfies the existing power in West Virginia, that really funds the campaign, is very, very big, and just keeps it so much more tied to fossil fuels. And there's really not too much that Joe Biden can do about it, other than as currently structured. So it's a really, really bleak situation. Normally these bleak decision points and just things for lack of causes for optimism all around. Let's see if we can get some optimism in just 20 seconds. Bernie and other top Dem leaders are now optimistic. I'm curious to see why they're optimistic, because I don't see why. Listen, we'll pass in just a bit.
Buckingham Palace has announced the death of His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh.
It's news flash.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is by Jessica Corbett. In a series of Sunday television appearances, key congressional leaders seemed optimistic. The Democratic caucuses of both chambers were joined together and passed both the bipartisan infrastructure bill and a Build Back Better package to advance President Joe Biden's agenda, even if it requires missing a rapidly approaching deadline. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, in order to advance a budget resolution with the broader package last month, struck a deal with a smaller group of right-wing Democrats that the chamber would consider the bipartisan bill by September 27th, which is a week from Monday. Progressives in the House have made clear that they won't back the infrastructure bill unless Congress simultaneously passes a $3.5 trillion package for social and climate programs. Passing that package through the budget reconciliation process allows Democrats to avoid a GOP filibuster in the Senate, but forces them to follow certain rules and get full caucus support. Asked on Face the Nation whether the package's $3.5 trillion price tag may come down to secure support from right-wingers such as Joe Manchin, Bernie Sanders indicated that was not an option. He says, "We came together. I expect because of the pressure of the American people, we'll come together again." That is the pressure that we need to see. And that is the pressure that I don't know right now exists. Emphasizing the $3.5 trillion is much too low, and a compromise has already been made. Exactly. Thank you, Bernie Sanders, saying this. At least saying this on TV, in some way, is a very, very effective thing. Sanders called on his colleagues to pass the package for the American public, which he pointed out broadly supports Democratic spending plans according to recent polling. True and always has been there. Now is the time to stand up to powerful special interests. Now is the time to start representing working families because of the people, because of the pressure of the American people. We're going to come together and do what has to be done. And Jim Clyburn is even on Bernie Sanders' side on this, which is really kind of surreal. While sharing Sanders' prediction the Democrats will ultimately pass a reconciliation package, Jim Clyburn suggested that they may not do so by their deadline, which is interesting. Let's take a look at the clip here, because it's going to be interesting to see. September 27th is still the goal, but in the question he may waffle on is the price tag. Will they pare it down some more?
$1 in new spending, but with some senators saying they only support one of those bills, and progressives in the House saying it's both bills or nothing, Democrats now risk passing neither of them. Joining us now, the number 3 Democrat in the House of Representatives, Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. So dozens of progressives in your caucus, in the Democratic caucus, say they're going to vote no on the bipartisan infrastructure deal on September 27th if a sweeping $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill isn't also passed by then. Given the fact that you currently don't have 50 votes in the Senate either, it therefore seems pretty unlikely that the reconciliation package will pass both the House and Senate in just the next 8 days, don't you think?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Jay. Well, you know, we're all negotiating, and of course we have a pretty big tent in our party. We have progressives that are very, very important, not just to the party, but to the country. And we have more moderates, and that's how it should be. We reflect what this country is all about, and we have a pretty evenly divided country these days, and all of us are working through that. So I know that everybody in our party understand that the country is at a point that we must do some things that we would not do ordinarily. And some of these things are going to be pretty expensive. But the expense, real expense, is in not doing them. We cannot continue with this pandemic. We got to spend the money that's necessary to get beyond it. We've got to do something about our infrastructure. Bridges are breaking down all over, and we've got to do something about it.
But the progressives are going to vote against the bipartisan infrastructure plan when it comes to the House floor on September 27th, unless it also comes with the $3.5 trillion budget deal. You're not going to have that passed by September 27th, are you?
Well, we can't. That's my point. Unless, let's be sure that we never get to that point. And that's why we have so much work going on now. Our leadership is on this. We are working with everybody in all corners of our party. They're trying to get to a common ground on all of these issues.
On this bipartisan infrastructure bill on September 27th, and then it will pass? Or is it also possible you'll delay the vote?
Well, there's always a possibility that the vote will get delayed. But the question is, are we going to work to get to our goal for September 27th? Yes, we are going to work hard to reach that goal.
And the question we didn't hear anything about there, to a really filibustery answer. Gee, I apologize for that. But was anything about the price. Like, we did not hear what will happen at $3.5 trillion price tag. Will it go up? Will it go down? As Bernie Sanders saying, a compromise has already been made on that. So addressing it again, so he said we ought to stop focusing on the number and start looking at what needs to be done. So, okay, I'm missing. You know what? Yeah, that's true. He did say that, and I believe he did say, we got to look at the cost of not doing these things. Clyburn did say. So good to know there, and I think a very encouraging sign the Democratic leadership is going to be on side on this one and actually trying to pass the Biden agenda, which, as Bernie Sanders already said, is a compromise. And it's very weird to have. It's very weird to imagine, that people like Clyburn and Sanders are going to be on the same page. But again, here we are. It is, as they say, 2021. All right, a new analysis is projecting that 100 million COVID COVID-19 vaccine stockpiled by rich nations and set to expire by the end of the year could be left to waste that's prompting a pretty big outcry from social justice campaigners who warn of a potential atrocities for nations that refuse access to doses. So as you can see, a clear instance here, like, good to start raising the pressure now so this stuff gets addressed, but like, imagine like the lack of access to vaccines in foreign countries, and they're just going to be left to rot over here. This just sounds like something that, you know, with the right pressure, something will be done. This because it's so blatantly wrong. So hopefully something gets done on that one as well. That's all the time we got for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back on Wednesday.